Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Great Malabite.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rufai.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, Adeso.
Good morning.
Yes, just before we go to the newspaper review, Ruben, you're talking about the statement by Pandev leader,
Yes.
Chief Ike Clark,
Yes.
that the South-South is not going to be subsumed in any Biafra republic. Yes, don't forget that Chief Ike Clark is from Delta State, part of Midwest, the only geographical space created through a referendum.
1967, right?
That 1963.
Is this 63?
63. The war started in 1967. It was before that.
Okay.
Now, that geographical space cannot be subsumed under any region, under any guise at any time, if you have to split this country. And that was exactly the context in which Pa Ike Clark, who happens to be my uncle, is speaking. Okay?
Thank you very much. Ishakiri Urobo Nigerians.
Yes. Now, let's start the review of today's newspaper with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of records. The lead story, UK, Nigeria security challenges overwhelming, multi-pronged. 6 better strategy to tackle unemployment, says Britain ready to offer consular services to Nnamdi Kanu. May give country a new grant of $125 million for education. Yes, this story emanated from this program yesterday when the top British envoy in Nigeria, Katrina Leang, the British High Commissioner in Nigeria, made that statement in that interview you had with her yesterday. But I'm particularly interested in this promise of $125 million grant for education, because with that kind of injection into the educational sector, I'm sure some of the problems we are seeing in federal universities will be dealt with, we'll have less strikes, and there will be some improvements in the educational system. So I hope the federal government will follow up on that promise, even as the president, Nigeria's president, is in the UK to discuss issues pertaining to education. Now, above the masthead of this day, which happens to be the main story of the day, as, of course, published by almost all Nigerian newspapers, CBN releases $200 million to banks to quell FX speculation. Disbursement to legitimate users begins this morning. Ends FX sale to BDCs to channel weekly allocation to banks, says BDCs aid corruption. Yes, according to this report, obtained exclusively by this day, if you go to the bank, to your bank this morning, with genuine request for FX, you will get, of course, for PTAs, personal travel allowance, basic travel allowance, medical payments, school fees for your kids, amongst other legitimate transactions, you will get FX. But the reports in other newspapers, not so cheery concerning this report. The Guardian newspaper, in rare courage, CBN weakens BDC operations, stops FX funding, indicts operators for money laundering. We receive 5,000 fresh BDC applications monthly, says Emefiele. MPR other monetary parameters remain. Decision, a rumor until we see CBN circulate. Secular operators insist. Yes. Candros research, discontinuation of FX to BTC will affect exchange rates. Nigeria to launch digital currency e-Naira in October. Yes, the CBN governor made that news, gave that news yesterday. Now, the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, to plug leaky reserves, CBN stops forex sales to BDCs. Accuses international bodies of illegal forex dealings. Asks banks to set up teller points for forex sales to customers. Retains NPR at 11.5%. Now, in the Daily Trust newspaper, in major policy shift, CBN cancels 2.3 trillion forex sales to BDC. Practice unsustainable. Emefiele, mixed reactions as experts fear more pressure. Operators flaunting rules, aiding financial crimes, CBN governor. APCON silent on new policy allegations. Now, the leadership newspaper, Naira may slide as CBN bans forex sales to BDCs. Apex Bank decision confirmed leadership report that Nigeria economy was bleeding from multiple exchange rates. BDCs got $5.28 billion in 11 months. Operators fear dollar scarcity. Medium and small-scale enterprises panic. The New Telegraph the News Direct newspaper ban on forex sales shocks 5,000 BDCs. Importers discontinuation to mount pressure on exchange rate. Analysts, while the New Telegraph newspaper, organized private sector, expresses concern as CBN halts forex supply to BDCs. Seeks proper monitoring of banks. BDC exchange executive holds crucial meeting. Apex Bank retains lending rate at 11.5%. Now, yesterday, the central bank governor, in that press briefing, reeled off a long list of iniquities, if you want to borrow a term from the church, but actually the infractions of bureau de change. But many of those infractions he mentioned, we've always known to be part of the character and characteristics of bureau de change. But yesterday, he put them before the Nigerian public as the sins of the bureau de change. But with this measure, what are we expecting? Are we expecting to see a closure of the gap between the official rate and the parallel market rate? Now, Ruben, you know, Nigerians love the parallel market because when Nigerians receive their remittances from families abroad, you know where they go with their money to change. When government officials come back with unspent Esther code, they don't go back to the banks. You know where they go to? They go to aboki.com and check the parallel market rate vis-a-vis the official rate of the banks. And I checked this morning, Ruben. I checked aboki.com, 505 naira to the dollar. Official rate of the central bank, 410. So will this measure close the gap or widen the gap? Because BDCs are still in business, they will source their dollars from wherever they can and continue to do business. So questions to be answered by the governor. Perhaps in the fullness of time, we'll see the outcome of this policy. Now, going to the banks, will it be easy for customers to really get effects from the banks? Are we going to see a situation, as in the past, where bank officials heading FXs become millionaires overnight? Of course, there's a word, round-tripping. It came from the banks. I hope we'll not see a lot of that. So the CBN governor has promised that there will be monitoring, and we hope there will be monitoring. But it must be said that yesterday, the central bank governor was in his elements. Of course, very familiar stuff, dealing with his proper mandate of dealing with the financial sector. Now, if we just go to other stories quickly before I come to you. The Daily Sun newspaper, more trouble for Igboho. Benin Republic presses fresh charges against pro-Yoruba nation agitator. Nigeria files no charge against him, lawyers revealed. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, Sunday Igboho faces fresh charges in Benin Republic. No date fixed for hearing. Stop pressurizing Benin Republic to extradite Igboho, Yoruba groups tells federal government. While the Nation newspaper, Igboho to Benin court, I fled Nigeria to avoid being killed. Agitator sent to prison. Lawyer, he is charged with illegal entry into Cotonou. Federal government yet to file paper before court. No date yet for hearing. Yes, Ruben, you were talking about the ECOWAS Treaty that makes for free movement of citizens across borders in the West Africa. But if you get to the border, you don't have a Nigerian passport, you cannot go in. Otherwise, that would be illegal entry. You have to first identify yourself as a Nigerian to enjoy that free entry. And if the information we have that the DSS that raided Igboho's resident took away his passport, then he would have crossed into Benin without a passport. That would be illegal entry, because a South African can come to Nigeria and stroll across the border in the name of ECOWAS free movement. You have to identify yourself as a West African for you to cross. Perhaps that is the basis of that charge there of illegal entry into Cotonou. But again,
lawyer Ifeni.
No. We'll see how it pans out.
Lawyer.
This is international relations.
I know. Lawyer. I hope you are aware that for you to move across West Africa,
yes,
you can have your national passport. At the same time, you can have the ECOWAS passport.
So you must show one,
which is blue in color.
You must show one.
We do not know the details, so let us allow the court in Cotonou to do its work.
Okay.
We are not a court of law.
No.
We do not do trial by media.
No. But to also say that why are they talking of illegal entry when he's an ECOWAS citizen?
No, that's still an allegation.
We have to clarify that.
It has to be proven.
Yes. Okay.
He who alleges
must prove. Well, that is why the courts are there.
Okay,
yes.
Lawyer Ifeni.
Now, the Punch newspaper, fresh varsity strike looms. Federal government asks you resume fight on payment platform. UTAS lack tax deduction. We can't pay without deducting tax, declares federal government. Education ministry, wrong. UTAS deducts tax. It encompasses everything, says ASU. They are still in this matter of payment platform. But we hope government and ASU will not allow this to degenerate into another round of strike, because Nigerian students have suffered enough. Many students had to do 4-year courses in 5 years because of the prolonged strike of ASU. And I'm sure ASU as a body should be wary of strikes this time around, but the federal government must also do the needful and ensure that the payment platforms they are using meet all the parameters. Now, foreign newspapers, quickly, before I come over to you. Now, the Times of UK, borders set to open for EU and US travelers. No quarantine for vaccinated from next week. Yes, taking the freedom further. From next week, citizens of America and EU who are fully vaccinated can enter the UK without quarantining. So that is the latest. Now, the Washington Post newspaper also on the coronavirus. CDC advises mask for all in COVID hotspots. Variant surge sports shift in, in guidance. Now, of course, we know the situation in the state of California, in New York City. In these areas, the CDC is advising the wearing of masks even when you are indoors. Now, also on the front page of the Washington Post, vaccine mandate expected for federal workers. Before long, all federal workers in the U.S. will be mandated to take the vaccine, no longer a choice. Now, Ruben, Rufai, and Adesuwa, over to you.
I mean, so much to be said, but just so little time. I mean, where should we piece it out from? Let's talk about what happened yesterday. The Central Bank of Nigeria did make some big and bold moves. But the question has always been, what will be the short-term effect and the long-term effect? This is going to be the short-term effect. There's going to be more pressure. You know, people will still go to their BDCs to get money. People will still go to their bookie FX to get money, to get foreign exchange. But what will happen is their bookie FX will put the prices up. Some people will go to the bank, but what about the administrative bottlenecks of the bank? I would like to see the reaction when people start to go to the bank and say, okay, these are my FX needs for PTAs and the likes and things like that. The pressure it will put on the bank. In the coming weeks, we'll get to know all about this. But when you look at it, in the long run, this was the best decision ever. The question is, can we sustain this? Are we going to balk under the pressure? Because we did this, I think, around 2016 or 2017, thereabout. So why did we reverse? But going forward, you know, we have to have that harmonized rate for our currency. It has to be said. We can't have too many windows. You get a certain rate at the bookie FX, you get a certain rate at the bank, you get a certain rate at CBN. It's not going to work. And when you look back, these are part of the things the IMF talked to us about. Some people are saying this is grand. This is one of the, you know, initial steps as regards floating the currency. I doubt that. I don't see that happening anytime soon. The Naira will still be largely defended by the CBN and the likes and other government parastatals for that. But this is the best way forward, really. But it's going to come definitely with some pains, and those pains will be seen in the coming days.
Well, I don't know how it is the best way forward. Because what this has proven is that in Nigeria, no matter how sensible a policy may be, Nigerians always find a way around it. When the CBN decided to focus on the bureau de change as a way of addressing the issue of the multiple exchange rate system and to introduce sanity into the market, in line with the recommendations of the Bretton Woods institutions, everyone was excited. They look at it. These same BDCs, the CBN is simply calling them criminals. The CBN is saying they've been involved in sharp practices. They've circumvented, a well-meaning policy. They are even colluding with international organizations in Nigeria who are, trying to exploit the forex market in Nigeria. The question I ask the CBN is, okay, it's not enough to just say we have revoked the licenses of the BDCs. Who are those culprits who sabotage an important policy? What will be done to them? Will they be named and shamed? Those are questions for the CBN. And as for the banks, look, the banks are not even better. These same banks that will not give you a mint notes, but when you go to the roadside, you will find people selling mint notes at a premium. If you want to buy 20,000 naira mint, you will pay 27,000 naira. If you try to buy 10,000 naira, you will pay about 16,000 naira. Now, what kind of system are we running? So, what I need to hear from the CBN is what mechanisms have they put in place to ensure that these banks do not also end up behaving like the BDCs, because that's what is likely to happen. Somebody once said that, look, any policy you introduce in Nigeria, as you are introducing the policy, it sounds commonsensical, intelligent. Some people are already working their way around it. It has happened with the BDCs. It will happen with these banks. So the CBN has to be vigilant. The CBN has to put structures in place to make sure that saboteurs are not allowed a free hand.
I think that's why I agree with what you said, Mr. Efeni, at the beginning. I couldn't agree with you more. When you say the core mandate of the CBN, perhaps if the CBN was not so overburdened with so many other things, you could focus on this basic policy direction, macroeconomic stability, financial inclusion, and others.
Well, I think the CBN is doing its work, but it has to worry more about saboteurs like the owners of the BDCs and the banks who are also likely to misbehave.